Good afternoon, Cherries fans, and welcome to this latest opposition preview show here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Before we do welcome on our special guest, here's a little bit about our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. To find out what they can do for you, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. So we travel to Villa Park to face Unai Emery's Aston Villa, a side who we've got a very good track record against. In fact, since we joined the Premier League, we've only had one defeat against them in our first ever game in this division. We also beat them 2-0 in the game at the start of this season. And of course, they were managed by Steven Gerrard earlier on in the season. So everything has changed and everything has picked up. Now, to preview this game, it is a pleasure to welcome back onto the show from the Villa Park podcast, Rich Sutherland. Welcome back to the show, Rich. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you, mate?
Yeah.
Looking forward to Saturday. It's going to be a tough one, and yeah, good to preview it with you on your channel.
Yep, and thank you so much for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure to have you back on. So, I think one thing that where we need to start with Aston Villa is, of course, Steven Gerrard and, of course, the situation that you were left in once he was actually dismissed from the job. Just looking at the statistics here, you were 17th in the league and just above the relegation zone with just 2 wins to your name at that point. What do you feel, honestly, went wrong with Steven Gerrard?
I mean, I was a massive advocate of getting Steven Gerrard in. Like I think I was on your podcast before the first
Yeah.
game, and saying we needed that perceived ruthless attitude, not a winning mentality, that kind of thing that we thought Gerrard would bring, that maybe Dean Smith didn't quite have, or had kind of lost a little bit with the Jack Grealish leaving, and and the sort of perceived being too nice, if you like. And
Yeah.
we thought that that's what Gerrard would bring, and I guess things were quite positive in the pre-season, bringing in Kamara and Diego Carlos. But honestly, I'm not exaggerating here. I really do think that game against Bournemouth, that first game of the season, was really the beginning of the end for Steven Gerrard. When we look back on it now,
Yeah.
it was the start of that whole Tyrone Mings debacle with kind of he'd stripped him of the captaincy, he'd given it to McGinn. Not really explained himself properly as to why. Then Mings wasn't in the side for that game for whatever reason, and yeah, he didn't play Ollie Watkins in that game for whatever reason. Went with Danny Ings, and it just seemed like there wasn't a happy camp behind the scenes. Like there'd been reasonable results in that preseason, but the performances hadn't been very good at all, and yeah, it just seemed like we were going into that game half cooked. And the last thing you want to be doing is going into a game against a newly promoted side away at their place, slightly, you say, undercooked, and it was just a nightmare start for him, and he just couldn't recover from it. He just could not recover from it, and yeah, it was inevitable in the end that he was gonna go, because it just got nasty. The fans, when you're coming at it from an attitude of a Steven Gerrard, if you're winning games and you've got that abrasive attitude, it's all good, because fans
Yeah.
will accept it. Players have to kind of step into line, fall into line, and what have you. But when it doesn't work, you kind of leave yourself isolated, because he didn't have the fans, and he didn't have the players, and you just fight, you've gone. So yeah, it had to be made. The change had to be made, and I think we're in a pretty good position now. We've got probably the best manager we could have hoped for in European football, to be honest.
And of course, since that time, you've won 8 games, and it's really shown an upturn in form. You are well clear of the relegation zone. Let's be honest, from the position where you are at the moment, you're not going to go down. Um, Unai Emery, as soon as he come in, you know, how did things change?
Yeah, I guess there's probably like numerous things. Obviously there's that new manager bounce,
Yeah.
but I can honestly say that, and if you ask Villa fans, it's that we've now seemed to have a proper coach
Hmm.
who understands the game tactically. Now, obviously, there's different types of manager.
Yeah.
Steven Gerrard was a man manager, so-called motivator, etc., etc., would be a figurehead for the club. And Michael Beale, who was his right-hand man, obviously went to QPR and then to Rangers, um, and yeah, and then he kind of brought Neil Critchley in, and it just didn't work. So to have an actual higher rated European winning coach as your manager, and
Hmm.
along with his backroom staff, you can just see it already, like the patterns of play, what he's asking the players to do, the analysis, the way that he's kind of asking players to do certain things and stay in certain areas. You look at the upturning form of an Ollie Watkins, you look at the upturning form of players like Buendia and
Hmm.
McGinn. Even it's just refreshing to see. And then also, I would say the specific coaching or specific tactics for specific games, particularly away from home. And if you look
Yeah.
at our results away from home, it's been nothing short of remarkable. I mean, we've only lost to Man City in recent games away from home, and we've gone to Tottenham and won 2-0. We've gone to Southampton and won 1-0. We've gone to Everton and won 2-0. So it's that kind of, yeah, I'd say it's real coaching.
Hmm.
It's specific coaching for specific games, specific tactics for specific games. Sorry, and also I think he was kind of in a win-win situation, but he's connected with the fans. He's used that as an opportunity to connect with the fans, and you know, and that's kind of set him up for a good for a good period. Now, at the moment, we're in kind of 11th position, and we seem to be 11th, eternally 11th at the moment. It's just
Yeah.
like we can't, like you say, we can't get relegated, and it seems to be like there's always one. It's always one win too far to challenge for the
Hmm.
top 7 or 8. So I don't know what's going to happen for the rest of the season.
To be honest, Unai Emery did, fantastically well in his first game in charge. He beat Manchester United 3-1. And after Steven Gerrard was sacked, you had the first home game back after that was that 4-0 demolition of Brentford. So the squad's quality is there, isn't it? Um,
Yeah,
that's what's crazy about it, is because there is such a good quality in that team, um, that I just don't get why they weren't playing for Gerrard.
it's just one of those classic cases of certain play. If you lose the players in the dressing room,
Yeah,
you can't do anything, and it's happened many times before, and it'll happen many times in the future. Obviously today Patrick Vieira's lost his job. Now, I don't
yeah,
know if it was quite the fact that he lost the dressing room, but there was rumours of players falling out with him and stuff like that. So look, players will get you the sack. That's the fact of the matter. As a
yeah.
manager, your players will get you the sack. So and that was specifically highlighted. Not only the fact that we beat Brentford 4-0, but we scored 3 goals within the first 15 minutes. So, so if
Yeah.
that doesn't tell you that they didn't want the manager around, I don't know what does. So, yeah, I mean, then the next game we did lose 4-0 to Newcastle, but yeah, since Emery
Mhm.
came in, obviously, yeah, we beat Man United 3-1. I don't think we've beaten Man United since the 1995-96 season at home.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he's kind of broken all kind of hoodoos as possible in his short period of time that he's been here. I guess the only one that he didn't manage to sort out was our terrible FA Cup form. Like, seem to go out in the third round every year,
Mhm.
but maybe that's to come. But yeah, I mean, it's been it's been a 9 out of 10. No, obviously the only blot on the copybook would be that FA Cup game against Stevenage, but other than that, it's been a phenomenal turnaround of fortune. And yeah, whatever happens this season, I think obviously every football fan says this, but whatever happens this season, I think we have got a real top manager.
Yeah. Of course, at the start of the show, you mentioned Tyrone Mings and how he was stripped of the captaincy. How has he bounced back from that early disappointment this season?
I mean, to give Gerrard a little bit of credit,
Hmm.
the handling of the situation was terrible, but the
Yeah.
actual decision to take the captaincy away from him has actually proved to be the correct decision in a lot of Villa fans' opinions.
Yeah.
The pressure of being the captain and also having to concentrate on doing his job properly was potentially meaning that he was making more mistakes. Now, obviously, we
Hmm.
we co- we don't know that for a fact, but all we can say is that this season he's been extremely consistent. It doesn't change him as a person whether he's got the captaincy or not. He's still that bellowing voice. He's still that leader on the pitch, and also and the fact that when he doesn't play, I think he's not played like 12 or 13 games in the Premier League for Villa,
Yeah.
and we've only won one of them. So the fact that record is there speaks for itself. That
Hmm.
he's just a great leader, and he's playing really well this season. And I was quite surprised that he wasn't included in the England squad yesterday. To be honest, I think he's probably the fact that we're probably in 11th doesn't do him too many favors, but in terms of his level of performance, he's been absolutely brilliant. So, yeah, you won't hear many complaints from Villa fans about Tyrone Mings, and even when he makes mistakes, like I've said this numerous times, if I was, as a manager, I would always want my centre backs to be 100% men, whether they make a mistake or whether they do whether they clear the ball. If they make that decision, that's what I'd rather them do. I would rather them do that than be, hesitant or not do anything at all. So that's
Hmm.
why I like Mings, because if he, at the end of the day, he'll make a mistake, he'll hold his hands up and say, "Look, I went for the ball, or I went for that header, or I went for that clearance, and I messed it up." But at least he went for it, and that's what I'd want from any of my centre backs.
And it's quite an interesting fact that you made there because we've recently made that change ourselves. So Lloyd Kelly, who wasn't in very good form at all, has had the captaincy stripped away from him at Bournemouth and it's been given to Neto. However, it seems to have coincided with his game against Liverpool, where he was a surprise inclusion but played really, really well, and that pressure just seemed completely off him. Are
Yeah.
you worried about playing Bournemouth considering our recent form, especially against Arsenal, where we narrowly got beaten by them 3-2 at the Emirates, but also that big win last Saturday that none of us expected?
Mate, honestly, Craig, I'm really worried. We don't have a good record against Bournemouth
Hmm.
in the Premier League. I think the last time we were doing it last night on our preview show, like the last time we won I think we've only had 5 games in the Premier League. You guys have won 4, and we've won 1, and that one win was the first game of the season in 2015, and
Yeah,
that was the only away win that we got all of that season. So, yeah, I'm really worried. And what worries me most about Bournemouth is the physicality
yeah,
element, and that's what got us. That's what done for us at your place in earlier on in the season. And the likes of Philip Billing, Dominic Solanke, Jefferson Lerma,
mhm,
even Kiefer Moore on the bench if he comes on or if he's in the squad. I'm not too sure, but those type of players Villa don't do that well against. So yeah, I'm really worried about the game. I am quietly confident,
Mhm.
however, because I think in the Premier League it's not only extremely difficult to win like back to back games, like 3 or 4 wins in a row. It's really
Yeah.
difficult to do that, but it's also extremely difficult to put 3 or 4 big performances together at the same time. And I do worry that, like, in terms of Bournemouth's sake, that you've played Man City, you've played Arsenal, you've played Liverpool, given all of them a really good game, got 3 points against Liverpool. I do worry that the effort that you guys have put into those 3 games, it's a little
Mhm.
bit after the Lord Mayor show when you come up against a Villa side that you think, oh, we could get a result against Villa, and then all of a sudden it's like bang, 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 and
Yeah.
it happens. They say it happens countless times. You raise your game so high for the games against the big boys, you get a result, and then all of a sudden you get brought back down to earth because it's so difficult to put
Mhm.
3 or 4 big performances together.
You've got the best goalkeeper in the country, though, at the moment, haven't you?
He's doing really well. He's he divides opinion from a lot of clubs. He even divides opinion sometimes between Villa fans. Like, he's got that arrogance about him.
Yeah.
He's got, obviously, yeah, he makes big saves. He's got a few weaknesses, though. I will say, like, he's not
Mhm.
great. Sometimes he's not great from corners or crosses. Sometimes he's not great with shots from distance. But yeah, I mean, the rise in Amy Martinez has been just phenomenal since he came to Villa and got that.
Mhm.
It's only 2 or 3 seasons ago that he was a number one goalkeeper. So then to go from that to, like, best goalkeeper in the world, World Cup winner, Copa America winner, I don't think
Mhm.
he could have even imagined it. But whether we can keep hold of him for next season, I'm not 100%. And I think Villa fans would obviously accept that if we got big money for him. But we'll wait and see. Yeah, I mean, we love him though. He's a great goalkeeper, and
Mhm.
he's even been asked to play a different style under Emery. He's been asked to play the ball off, play the ball, start moves a lot more. You'll see him holding onto the ball quite a lot and waiting for you guys to press and then to play it to Tyrone Mings or to Ezri Konsa. So you'll see that a lot. But yeah, great goalkeeper. But I mean, you guys have got a good goalkeeper. I've heard Neto's doing really well as well.
Yep, he's a fantastic goalkeeper, of course, signed from Barcelona of all teams. So yeah, he's really stood out after, of course, Mark Travers lost his place after that thrashing at
Mm,
Liverpool. But yeah, Neto, outstanding goalkeeper, and likewise, we just hope that we can keep hold of him after this season, be it we stay up or go down. I think if we go down, then I think Neto will be off. If we stay up, maybe he's going to be invested in the project. But I was just having a look at your transfer activity as well in January, and there wasn't a lot of it, but from what you did do, it's sensible.
mm. Yeah, and obviously we bought Moreno in, Alex
Yep,
Moreno, which, again, like, we've been educated into the Emery style of football every week
yep,
with in terms of how he plays and how he wants his teams to play, and he's got, like, at the moment he hasn't quite got the personnel that he wants, and we were rumored to be linked with lots and lots of players. Um, the Matteo Guendouzi, one or two others that couldn't quite get over the line. But he
mhm,
got a Moreno in, and then he got Jean Duran in, young Colombian striker,
yep,
very raw, pacey, big, strong. Whether he kind of is one for more for the future, he's made a few appearances this season and done quite well when he's come on, but not ready to start a game. And it's great that Ollie Watkins has found some form. But yeah, in terms of that left hand side, we needed more pace, and Moreno has got that. Obviously, he's got that more speed than Luca Dean, um, and he's also got that delivery. So he's getting used to the Premier League every week, and obviously he put a great ball in last week for Watkins for his goal against West Ham. But yeah, it's a strange one to see because we have, like, Matty Cash doesn't get forward as much now on that right hand side,
yep,
and Leon Bailey's been playing on that right hand side as a winger. But then on the left-hand side, it's literally just a left back that runs up and down, almost as a
Hmm.
wing back in Moreno. So there's quite a lot of exposure down. We have attacks down that left-hand side, but there's also, you guys could exploit that, with your right winger. So that's going to be an interesting one to see. But yeah, that's kind of how he likes to play. But yeah, he's been good, Moreno. But it's what tends to happen is that if Luca Dean starts, then he'll make the sub on the 60th minute and bring Moreno on. Or if Moreno starts, he'll make the sub on the 60th minute to bring Luca Dean on. It's almost as if like you run your heart out for 60 minutes and then
Yeah.
I'll swap the left backs over.
And of course, you mentioned there our right midfield, our right winger, which is Dongo Atara. And of course, we signed him from Lorient. He's been absolute quality since he's joined the club. And you probably saw the goal against Liverpool, how he created that. And in his few appearances so far this season, of which I think we're up to 6 now, he's set up 3 goals already. Is he the man that you feel that you need to keep quiet, considering how much he's enjoying his football here at Bournemouth?
I think you've got a really exciting front line. Yeah,
Hmm.
Itara. Is it Anthony Jaden
Yeah, Jaden
Anthony?
Anthony, yeah, on the
Yeah,
left.
he looks brilliant. Solanke, obviously a good player, growing into his role. Has been a bit injury prone, but seems to be putting games
Hmm.
together now. Doesn't always score so many goals, but he's kind of that support player,
Hmm.
and holds the ball up well. So it's almost like you're getting that front three like you had before with like the Wilson. Um,
Yeah,
what was the Wilson? What was the lad's name on the
Josh
left
King.
answer? Josh King. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's almost like you're kind of getting that
Hmm.
that free flowing front three again, where
Yeah.
you had that a few years back, and then obviously you've got Philip Billing, who you know a lot of teams would want because he's 6'4", scores goals,
Hmm.
physical, you know, yeah, he always loves playing against Villa as well. Even when he was at Huddersfield, he always used to dominate
Yeah.
us in midfield there. So, yeah, like you're a tough nut to crack. I just think, I guess, you've still got those lapses in concentration, or slight weaknesses at the back that obviously can
Hmm.
cause issues, but that's obviously to be expected when you're your team back up in the Premier League. But to be where you are at the moment and winning those games and putting those performances in that you have done, I mean, I don't even think you would have expected to kind of be beating Liverpool and giving Arsenal a real game and stuff, earlier on this season. So yeah, it's
No,
it's 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 good to see that you're in that fight, and there's what is there something like 10 teams all in with a shot of getting relegated. It's crazy.
it is. And to be honest, I didn't expect that at all. That 1-0 win at the weekend. And it was just the way we played, the way we controlled things, and also at the back. And this is something I want to put to you, Rich. Of course, Bournemouth earlier on the season were very, very susceptible to set pieces. A set piece comes in, we would struggle. However, Jack Stevens has come in next to Senesi and really solidified us against those sort of threats. Considering set pieces aren't so much of a weakness now, how do you think you can get at us?
Well, again, as I said before, like with regards to Emery
Hmm.
analysing games to the nth degree,
Yeah.
he'll come up with a strategy and he'll come up with certain set moves that will highlight the areas that will be your weakness.
Hmm.
So I've confidence in that. In specifically, it's quite difficult to say. We play kind of that box midfield, and
Yeah.
what he likes to do is get overloads in those areas. So he'll pull players around. So he'll have like the pivot with like a Louise and probably a McGinn, because I don't think Kamara will be fully fit yet. And Louise will drop deep, but then the McGinn, Buendia, Ramsey, those three will move around quite a lot and
Yeah.
will create little overloads and then get on the half turn and then be able to run at the Bournemouth defence. So if that gets working,
Hmm.
that's where we can get those overloads in midfield. And then obviously um, he's got that left hand side with Moreno, which he likes to engineer moves to get him free, and then the delivery in. Whether that's an early cross like he did against West Ham, or whether that's trying to get further forward and like a low cross across the box into say a Watkins or an on-running midfielder. So that would I would say that he will look specifically for areas where we might be able to exploit. Just I would say anecdotally, if it's that 4-3, if it's that 4-3-3 that you guys play, or then automatically there with us having that box midfield, obviously you've got the pressure that you might be able to pin our fullbacks back.
Yeah.
However, that 4 in midfield is outnumbering that 3, so it could pull your midfielders around a little bit. So that's what I would probably say. And then, but on the set pieces point, Villa have been pretty weak off set pieces. We don't score many goals from set pieces, and we have conceded quite a few off set pieces in the past. So that is an area where I'll be quite concerned. Albeit we did pretty well against West Ham last week in terms of defending those set pieces. I think they had 12 corners and obviously didn't score against us, and that's a big part of West Ham's game. So we are getting better at them, but it's definitely an area where you could probably look to punish us.
Would you be worried if Kiefer Moore started then against Villa?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. Like he's no nonsense. He does what he says on the tin. But yeah, we tend not to do very well against. I'll be a little bit more confident with Tyrone Mings is in that team. I think we started with Diego Carlos and Ezri Konsa in that first game, and not that obviously Carlos is a really good player, and he obviously got in. We won the game after, and unfortunately he got injured and hasn't played again. He's back in the squad now. He's obviously on his road back, but I think that was a bit of a wake up call for him in that game. Like I don't think he won a header against him. Whereas I think a Tyrone Mings, if he's on his game, which he has been at the moment, will cope with a Solanke or with a Kiefer Moore a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, as I say, it's still that area with Villa where we're not quite matching teams up. That's where I would say we were at our weakest against the strong physical sides. What I would say is with an Emery side, we're keeping the ball a lot better. So it does kind of negate that physicality if you've got the ball. Whereas under a Gerrard or a Dean Smith, we tried to play a little bit more on the break, and we just get overrun too easily.
In the last 5 games, of course, Villa have won 2, drawn 1, and lost 2. But that doesn't really tell its own story because, of course, those 2 games that you lost were against Manchester City and Arsenal. But, of course, you've beaten Everton, you've beaten Crystal Palace, who are in the relegation fight with us, really. Palace, you can say that they're in there now.
Yeah,
definitely. But with those results, how did Villa overcome those teams? Because of course, those are 2 teams that we've still got to play in this battle, really.
Yeah. With not West Ham, with Everton, I think it was a case of it was a away game. We just strangled them out the game. They weren't. Admittedly, they'd come off the back of 2 or 3 big performances, and then maybe we're going into a game against the Villa side, thinking, obviously this is a game that we should be looking to win or what have you, and they just didn't turn up. Now, whether that was Villa kind of stifling them a little bit, or killing the game a bit, or whether it was Everton just not playing, up to their capabilities, it was a bit weird. But yeah, we kind of stifled the game. They had 1 or 2 chances, they huffed and puffed, but then we kind of grew into the game. So as it went into that second half, 60 minutes, we then kind of took over the game and scored 2 goals and put the game to bed. And then against Palace, again, Palace just didn't turn up. And it was a really poor game, to be honest. Both teams, Villa didn't really have to get out a second or third gear to win the game, and it was a good, well-constructed move that then caused the own goal for Anderson. So, yeah, I would just say, like, against those teams, against the teams that you're fighting for, it's fighting with. Obviously, it's vital to get those 3 points, but it's vital not to lose at the same time. So you would just want to keep it tight, stifle the game, particularly if it's away from home, and then play for a set piece or play for a workable move that you can score a chance off. The last thing I'm sure Gary O'Neill would want would be an end-to-end 3-3 and going into the last minute trying to snatch it 4-3 or something like that. You just want to win. You want to be nice and boring and win 1 or 2-0. That's what you want. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'll quite happily take a really boring 2-0 win against Crystal Palace. Even if it means we stay up. Because
Exactly. So how many points are you guys on at the moment?
at the moment we are on 24
Right. Okay.
24 points. But of course, we've got a run coming up, and one of the runs actually early April. We've got West Ham at home, we've got Southampton away, and then Leeds at home. Now that I think is critical for us, and really we don't want to be going to Goodison Park last game of the season trying to get a win. We've got
Mm,
Manchester United just beforehand as well at Dean Court.
right.
I think that's why I wanted to ask the question, because Palace is the game that we really want it sewn up by, and that is the middle of May.
Yeah.
If that's sewn up that game, we can go into those last two games with no concerns. And really, how many points do you think it would take to actually be safe this season? Because, like I say, I think Villa are pretty much there on
Yeah.
35.
Yeah. Like there's still 11 games or 11 or 12 games to go as well for the season. So
Yeah.
actually, the teams in those bottom areas aren't doing too badly points wise.
Hmm.
If you think about it, you've won I think you've won 6 games already this season and
We
drawn
have,
six
yeah.
games already.
Yes.
So it's not horrendous form. You're probably looking if you guys can win another 4 games and that's another 12 points. That puts you on 36. I'd probably say somewhere around that, 36 to 37. I always say like 40 points obviously gets you
Yeah.
bang safe, but I would say more around the 36, 37 point. Yeah, 37 points. I would say I'll probably just about see you safe. Another four wins or so, 4 wins in the draw or so, I'll see you safe because, like you say, the teams have to play each other. You've
Hmm.
just come off the back of playing City, Arsenal, Liverpool. All those other teams will have to do that
Yeah.
at some point in the season as well. So yeah, it's gonna be around that mark, I would say. But it's a real funny one because even you guys get a great result against Liverpool, but one or two of the other teams have won as well on that weekend, and the likes of Leicester and Palace who
Hmm.
can't seem to buy a win are just falling like a stone. So yeah, it's going to be right down to the wire, but there's still a lot of points to play for. Yeah, and obviously I hope you guys do it, but obviously after Saturday, after the international
Yeah.
break.
I think Leicester's last win actually was
Yeah, well, that was against us.
against.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I
no,
think.
no. Sorry, they beat us and then they beat Tottenham.
Oh, they beat.
Yeah,
Oh, yes, of course they
yeah,
beat Tottenham as well.
yeah,
Tottenham are a weird side, but
yeah.
I was completely shocked by that result, Rich, because I had you down all day of beating Leicester at home.
Yeah, you know what it was? It was a really good game of football. Like both teams
Hmm.
went for it. You could see both teams had weaknesses at the back, but it was a game where I don't think Leicester would have scored 4 easier goals. Like all of the goals that they scored, sorry, we put them on a plate for them.
Yeah.
Mistakes with playing out from the back, taking too many risks, and they just literally walked it into the net on pretty much every goal. So it was one of those kind of freak games, and it could have been like 6-4 to Villa. Like we had lots and lots of chances, but that was a period of 3 games where I think we conceded 11 goals or something stupid like that. We lost to
Yeah.
Leicester 4-2. Then we had a similar game that you guys had against Arsenal. Taking them all the way to the last minute. And then they got a couple of goals right at the end, and then obviously we got beaten at 3-1 at Man City. So yeah, it was one of those time periods where we had the initial upturn of kind of Emery coming in, and it was all fresh and new, and then it was kind of that middle point where it was like, right, which direction are we going in here?
Yeah.
Because we could either drop right down again, or we can kind of pick it back up and learn from our mistakes. And touch wood, that seems to have happened at the moment. Like since those games, we've been pretty much on decent form. So yeah.
Against the local rivals this year, you have struggled a little bit, haven't you, as well? Because just looking at this, of course, against Wolves you got a draw, against Forest you got a draw, and of course
Mm.
Leicester were beaten. You still got all three teams to play again, but do you think because Villa are the best team in the Midlands at the moment, of course Birmingham's nowhere to be seen,
No,
um,
no.
but do you think that those sort of teams are raising their game at Villa Park?
I'd say that's a pretty decent shout. Yeah. Obviously, Forest have got to come to Villa Park.
Oh yeah, of course.
So that's going to be a big game. But yeah, I mean, it was a big atmosphere at Forest, and that's one of the things that gives them a good chance of staying up, their home atmosphere, their home form, and it
Mhm.
is a tough place to go. Leicester are a funny side. Like we don't have a great record against them, so maybe it is a case of it's not a big rivalry, anything like that, but it might be like an East West Midlands thing, and Leicester
Yeah.
kind of maybe raise their game a little bit. And then Wolves, yeah, Wolves again. We don't have a great record against Wolves for whatever reason. Um, so yeah, it could well be that they do raise their game, but
Mhm.
Wolves are a deceptive side. Like they play some good football, like they play some good stuff. They just haven't got a goal scorer at the moment. But
Mhm.
when they do get going, with Neves and Matinho and Neto and stuff, they've got a good side. It's just yeah, they can't score goals.
I think Wolves should be okay in the race, but um, before we do our final predictions for the game, please do tell everybody where they can find Villa Park Podcast, Rich.
Yeah, of course, mate. We are at Villa Park Pod on YouTube and on Twitter. We've just recently passed 1,000 subscribers, so we're almost at 1,100. We do match reviews, match reactions. We do match previews. We do little short news shows. We also do a great show with a football analyst called Talking Tactics, which we go through after every game. So yeah, check it out. It'd be great if you guys could subscribe. We had our preview for the Bournemouth game yesterday, so check that out and we'll have a watch of that. And also look out for our match reaction show and our Talking Tactics show, which we will go through, win, lose or draw, analyze the game and kind of see where Villa or Bournemouth went right or wrong. So yeah, look out for us.
Great stuff. Thanks, Rich. And all the details are in the links description below. So please do go and subscribe now. So we better do our predictions quickly before we finish up. But how do you think this is going to go, Rich? Because it's a weird one. We've just come off the back of a big win. You've come off the back of a draw with
Mm.
West Ham. Um, I think it's a difficult one to call.
It is a really difficult one, and let's say when we were doing the preview yesterday, it was a lot of kind of very very hesitant, like from the,
Mhm.
the viewers, like a lot of hesitant victories for Villa were going in. Um, and then there was even supporters saying I think we're going to get beaten because we don't have a great result against teams that have been promoted. I
Yeah.
think George, one of our co-hosts, had said it's out of the last 10 games out of newly promoted sides, we've only won two. So we're a not good side against like the newly promoted teams. And whether that's a case of we concede an early goal and then we can't break the teams down, I'm not 100% sure. But I am going to say, even though I'm going to say this, I'm going to say 3-1 Villa, but it's not going to be a 3-1 game, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna maybe go 1 or 2 nil up. You guys will pay us back and then be attacking, and then we'll score a goal to kind of just about seal it. But yeah, I'm going to say that. I'm going to say Watkins, Buendia, and Ramsey. I think we'll get a goal.
I'm going to go, to be honest, I could go with my heart or my head. My head says probably a draw, but the heart is saying I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. And I think Phil Billing and I
Yeah,
think Atara needs to get off the mark. He deserves a goal. So
yeah,
I'm thinking maybe him, grabbing that goal. I think it will be difficult, though. I think it'll
yeah.
be
Let
very, very difficult.
let me just say that I don't. Yeah, it could any of the scores. Obviously this can be said for any game, but literally in this game, any of these scores could happen. Like I can easily
Mhm.
see a Bournemouth victory. I can see Villa getting a win, and like you say, I can see it being a stalemate. Both teams sort of frustrating each other, but yeah, I've got to go with the home team. And if Villa have any ambition of trying to break into that top 10 and not being in like a purgatory of 11th position in the league, we have to be winning our home games against Bournemouth. So
Mhm.
it has to be done. But it would be typical Aston Villa to kind of look that game and look a gift horse in the mouth, so to speak, like and just mess it up, because that's just typical Villa, and we'd be banished to 11th position for all of eternity.
Well, Rich, all the very, very best for the rest of the season. Of course, after Saturday,
You
but
too, mate. You
um,
too.
hopefully you will get above 11th position in the league. But hopefully we won't be the
And hopefully we meet
downfall
next
of that.
season as well. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. We're
Yeah.
looking forward to doing this next season. But keep up the excellent work with the Villa Park podcast. Brilliant channel, and please,
You too,
everybody,
mate.
subscribe.
Thank you very much, and
No
I
problem.
will catch you soon. I've got to shoot, but yeah, great stuff. Cheers, Craig.
Thanks so much, Rich. Take care. All
Take
the
care, mate.
best.
Bye-bye. Bye.
And thank you for everybody for joining us on this show. Please remember to hit the like, the subscribe, the bell button below to be alerted to any new videos we do here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Please do also check out Cherry Picking. It is coming a little bit later on this week. Unfortunately, I was really, really poorly yesterday. So therefore, you will have that very, very soon. Also, do check out our watch along, which is coming tomorrow with myself and Matt. We'll be watching the game, we'll be giving our instant reaction, so do check that out. Plus, all of our interviews as well. So, we've had James Hayter on the show. Of course, for Villa fans, we've had Sean Teal as well. You'll probably remember him. He goes into quite some detail about his time at Villa Park, and there's loads more to enjoy. So please do check those out. So until the next show, up the cherries, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you for joining us.